Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Social Design Studio. Based in Scottsdale, they specialize in creating stunning, boutique hospitality spaces that stand out. Whether it's a restaurant, nightclub, spa, or hotel, Social Design Studio brings together interior design, branding, and guest experience to create spaces that are not only beautiful, but functional and memorable. From Oliver's to Bourbon and Bones to Etta and Scottsdale, they've left their mark all across the valley. For more information, visit socialdesignstudio.co.
All right, so we're here at Social Design Studio for the first episode of a 3-episode series. Very excited for this. Excited faces? Are you guys excited?
So excited.
Yeah? And when all is said and done, we're going to be, basically what we're doing is we're covering what it's like to, from start to finish, to open up a successful restaurant, right? And when all is said and done, we're going to be at The Sparrow, your place, Emily.
Yes.
You're very excited to dig into all of the details and ask your architect and your designer how they did what they did.
Yes.
And the construction company, that's you as well.
Right.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all of that stuff. Yes. So before we get into that, though, we want to give a shout out to the Arizona Cancer Foundation for Children. They have a big gala event coming up November 1st, right?
November 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, they support families that are going through childhood cancer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're an incredible organization. And the gala on November 1st really is their big annual one that kind of supports them throughout the year. I mean, obviously they have smaller things throughout the year, but this one is huge for them. So thank you for helping us bring awareness.
Yeah.
So Brian and I actually worked on a renovation of their kitchen space where families can come get a meal. The parents get kind of some counseling, but they do a ton for those families. So we're just
excellent.
excited.
And this October, we have the Spooktacular event where we get to go there and be with the kids and give them kind of that Halloween experience that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I dig it. So azcancerfoundation.org to get all the information about all that they do and the event that's coming up. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, with that, I will hand it over to Nicole.
Sure.
You're going to be running this one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm done.
Now I'm nervous.
You should be. No, I'm just kidding. You're going to do great. You're a natural. And I guess a little preface to this, we did the episode with you a few months ago. It could have been 2 months. It could have been 15 months ago. I can't. I don't differentiate.
Time flies.
But you were just such a great guest, and you said, "Oh, I would love to host sometime." And then afterwards, you would text me. You're like, "I was serious about that." So I'm putting you on the spot now. So I'm very excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having all of us.
Yeah.
So I think we were just chatting after that episode, and I was mentioning we get so many questions all the time. I mean, obviously we have clients who have done it 20 times, right? Like built restaurants, but we get so many questions from like first timers, or maybe somebody who only has one concept, or maybe they're a chef who is at an existing restaurant and they're like, gosh, my dream is to have my own place, Yeah. And so a lot of people just have no idea where to start. And I feel like the conversation is not a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It's really, it's huge, the build out. So on average, our projects take probably minimum, if it's like a minor TI, like 6 months at the least, and then up to 3 years sometimes. So I just thought this could be a really great opportunity to basically do a 3-part series on walking you through kind of the bigger chunks and milestones of what it takes to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
And we have my friend Emily here, who Brian and I designed her new location, Sparrow. And I was like, well, how great would that be to do something that's like currently in the works. Yeah. So as it's happening, let's do it real time, just to bring people into exactly, because even like probably in a year, I'll forget half of this.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Like, what happened there? So just to start it, I would say, I'm going to pose a question to you. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
How does it happen? Like I think we were kind of chatting about this in the beginning, but like you already have, a few concepts. So you have Squid Ink Sushi and then Highball. And then you just were like, for funsies, let's do another one.
Let's do another one. Yeah, I think both my husband and I kind of have the mindset of timing is what it is. And when things and opportunities come around, we just take a look at them, decide if it's right, and move. We knew that we were going to open more concepts just when the time was right. And when we were approached by a broker and a developer, I was kind of telling her a little bit that Highball, when we opened that in the midst of the pandemic, I really got to step into what it takes to open. That's a bar location, so it was a little bit simpler. For sure, we were able to do it with just a small team. But with Sparrow, the concept was thought of, kind of started to come to life in my head back then, and then has just kind of flourished and become things that I dream about for, all these, a few years until we got to now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I guess, where it started. And then I love Peoria, born and raised right in the West Valley. I think the Valley is flourishing over there. Mm-hmm. And we were presented an opportunity for, a brand new center, a brand new restaurant, and knowing what everyone over there is looking for, it kind of just came to like, okay, it's time to find the right team to do this with us.
Perfect timing. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point that you make, that sometimes these concepts are living in your brain for years, mm-hmm. So it's not only, once you actually start that action of like finding a team, but like you've been kind of quietly building it in your head for a while.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So the very first step when you're I'm ready. Then you go out and you probably look for a team. And I think the biggest question I always get, and Brian, maybe you get this question too, right? Your team is typically your architect and your designer is probably who leads it. And everybody always asks, who do I hire first? So who goes first? And I don't know, Brian, if you want to jump in on that, but sure. It could be either.
Yeah. I mean, right now we're working on a project where a client came in and looking at an opportunity. So we do a test fit for them to kind of make sure the brand, the seating layout, things like that are going to like fit into the space that they want. And so sometimes that's a good kind of upfront, help them get the deal done. And then that kind of gives us an opportunity to get our foot in the door and bring on the full design team.
Mm-hmm. And you are, real quick to clarify, you are Brian from
Align Architecture.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, is it A-Line or is it Align? And so it's Align.
It's a play on the words, so either one works.
I like it.
So Emily, you knew you had a space, and then you went out, and we weren't your first, right? You wanted to interview. Yes. So how did you even find us?
So word of mouth, of course, knowing kind of I'm also the general contractor here, so hearing about A-Line or Align, watching kind of them grow into the restaurant space. And then Nicole came with incredible recommendations. So I think that was huge, but I did. I'm big on making sure that personalities align. I think it's incredibly important. So we say that as a general contractor. Also, I think just as humans, we should make sure that we're aligned before we start anything. Mm-hmm. I interviewed 3 different companies. And it was very, very clear to me that this specific project and our personalities were just completely aligned. I think, we went through a typical bid process, but I had pretty much already made my decision long before that.
She's going to make me blush.
That was it. That's all Nicole wanted. She just wanted to hear that, get that on record. Yeah.
No, but I mean, you make a very good point, right? Like personalities, because we are not the right fit for everybody. So I always say that first step, maybe you already have a space in mind, but please do interview multiple designers, because our timing could be off. Like we might not be able to take on the project in your time frame. Our number might be not right, or we may not be, I don't know, I think I'm a pleasant person, but I may not be for everyone. And as we mentioned, first, we could be married for like 2 years sometimes. Yeah. So we are constantly in communication. I mean, phone calls, emails, texts. And so you really want to enjoy the people that you're working with, because when it gets in it, when we get in it, like both in design and then definitely during construction, you want to enjoy that whole process. So I think that first phase of just finding the right team is so crucial. Just looking at like the right fit. And Brian, when you're bringing on clients, do you tell them the same thing?
Well, the first thing we do is we really try to set clear and realistic expectations. A lot of clients come in hearing things or thinking things about the process and how long things take or how much things should cost. And so when we try to set those expectations, we try to kind of educate them without pushing them away or making it seem too complicated. So we have like a nice schedule we break out for them. We kind of give them some ideas on cost. And so it kind of helps set the tone. And then as they come into it, they're not surprised later on.
That's a great point, because that's exactly how we are as a GC too. We're definitely, I try to give them almost like a one-pager brand. Like, hey, this is, we're not going to be the cheap person. We're not going to be expensive, but we are going to deliver these things. This is a typical schedule, especially for a client like a restaurant that might be doing it for the first time.
And I think it's important to have a team that actually cares about your brand and seeing you get open and be successful. So many just want to kind of do the drawings and design, just kind of walk away and say good luck. But we want to be there on the opening day. We want to be invited to the opening day and have you see us and smile and be glad that we're there and still a part of your team and that family that we kind of grow into.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. So you got some bids. We were the winners.
Let me ask this real quick. Let me interject here. So what would you like, we've talked to a few restaurateurs through the years that they're like, oh yeah, we did the design ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can kind of tell, not that it's a bad thing. Right. But what would you advise against like someone's that's gonna do the design themselves?
Yes, that is a great question. So I will be the first one to say that at this table, I am the only one you absolutely do not have to have, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you have to have Brian. You legally have to get through the city.
And right. He's protected by the law. Nice,
yes.
nice.
And Emily, as a GC, you have to have them. Your landlord is going to require that you have a capable GC that is licensed, bonded, and insured to build out your space, because they don't want anybody just obviously building out a commercial space. There's a lot of liability there. But there are people who maybe have a knack for it, right? And they kind of want to do the space themselves, or like, hey, my wife is really good at colors or whatever. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're phenomenal. Really, you want to hire a designer for time, right? And then our expertise. So I've been doing this for 18 years now. Restaurants is kind of what I know. And so I was mentioning this to somebody. There is a massive difference between a space being decorated and a space being designed, right? So a space being decorated is somebody like, I'm going to put plants here and I like the color blue, but maybe they can make it come together and it looks pretty, right? Yeah. Where a space that's designed is really thought through, like the full concept, right? So, and that's the next step we'll get into. So like when you're hiring a designer, you're hiring somebody to truly help you take those vision that's in your brain and bring it to life. And like, what does that look like conceptually? With everything, with every single finish, with every single detail, with the graphics, with the artwork. Like, we're really pulling together everything. But also, as a commercial interior designer, a hospitality interior designer, we're also thinking about the functionality and the codes. And by the way, if we do drapery, it has to be fire rated and, all of that. So you can do it yourself. You don't have to hire an expensive designer, but it is going to have an elevated feel when you do hire a designer.
And as someone who's done both, it's just, you don't know what you don't know. So if I was talking to a restaurateur or someone that's, really great at decorating a home, there's just so much that goes into the design, like she was saying, that likely you're not going to think of because you just don't have the repetition of it. You're not going to think of the fabrics or where things might splash or pieces like that until you're already too far along. And then really you don't end up with what you envisioned in your head.
Sure.
And Nicole and her team are very detail oriented, so they think about all the little elements, the touching points and everything. So
100%.
And you can tell when you walk into a place of hers and you're just like, this blows you away.
Yes.
It does. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, sorry, carry on. I had to add that in there.
You're
Yeah.
gonna make me blush it. Okay. Yes. So we were the winner chicken dinners. And then, so we get signed. And by the way, during the proposal process, obviously we are two completely separate companies. So you will have a contract through, like if we were your team, you will have a contract through Brian, you'll have a contract through me. When you get those multiple bids, look at each one. It's not always the cheapest that is, you have no idea, but make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because sometimes this one doesn't include this or this one does include this. So you just want to make sure with any bid that you're trying to make sure they're all equal. But then we sign the dotted line and then we start. And that's exciting. It's so exciting when we start.
It's so exciting. I just want to start from the beginning. All over again.
I know. So,
Just repeat and do that all the time.
yeah. So you basically get the shell, essentially. So the shell is like what we call 4 walls, right? So you're going into a center, a complex.
Yes. Yep.
And then they give you
Gray shell.
gray shell,
Yep.
which is like 4 walls.
Walls-ish.
Yeah.
You can
So like
pick if you want
everything-
concrete or not. It could be dirt.
So it's like gutted, basically. Like it's just,
And sometimes there's not even a slab. Sometimes
Okay.
it's truly dirt.
Yep.
So whether or not you want your slab poured by the landlord or, and Brian can probably, that's all, all him. But basically you're given this plan that says, okay, here you go. What do you want to do with those 4 walls? And then that's where we have fun.
And I would say there's an important part that comes in, because when you're working with your landlord and you're trying to figure out your design team, your landlord is going to have a lot of things that you work through with your lease, and there's a lot of details and things that the architect and design team needs to know. So having your design team in early helps you kind of think about all the things that come ahead, and how much power you're going to need, where you're going to need your electrical, the water, everything, how utilities play out. So it's an important step to make sure you get right.
Yes, that's a really good point, because that's another question I get a lot is like, when do we engage an architect and a designer? As early as possible, really. Right. The earlier, the better. We can set you up for success, right? With the landlord, with everything. So we got the 4 walls, and then usually the big question is who goes first, Brian or I. But I always, especially with a restaurant, the biggest chunk, the biggest driver is the actual kitchen. Yep. So typically Brian and his team engage a food service designer, and you kind of carve out the space, right?
Yep. So under our contract, we incorporate typically the mechanical, plumbing, electrical engineers, structural, the food service, and then our fees also include going through the full city process, health department, everything that's needed from front end to back end of the project. So we try to, it's a one-stop shop, and then, you get one bill instead of multiple. So it makes it a little more simple. But working with Nicole, she's doing some of the test fit items with the furniture and how kind of the seating arrangement. We work with our food service consultant, what is needed in the kitchen and how's that all kind of function and flow. And it's a collaboration back and forth to make sure that we massage both to get the right seating to the right equipment, so that the menu can work with the concept.
I think that's incredibly important to touch on. Again, as a restaurateur that has not done it, hiring them even before you sign that lease, going back to that, and then also making sure that you bring them on for that initial step. I know there's restaurants that don't succeed because if it's chef driven, they're looking for a kitchen, that's exactly what they've always dreamed of, but that might affect seating or affect things that ultimately will negate from the success of the project. And so going back to like how early to bring someone on, I always say, like, if you're set that you're going to do something, engage them, because you're not going to waste the resources there.
And without even, I guess that would even be really relevant to the fact of like, is this the right space for what we want, right? Because you're like, oh, this is perfect, this is in the right part of town. Then you talk with these guys and they're like, this, you're gonna have to change a lot of things, and can tell you what you would have to change.
Yes.
Yep. And we're always happy to come in and consult early on to make sure that you are finding the right space that's good for you.
Right.
Yep. So that first step, we actually had a kickoff team with everybody, all the consultants and the chef, because we do want to make sure that, because your concept is chef driven and that he gets what he needs, but yes, does not take, right? You can't take 50% of the space for this beautiful kitchen because you're going to have nobody sitting in there. Yeah. So it's definitely a balance of the seating area and then also the kitchen. Yes.
Restrooms.
So as they're developing the kitchen, carving that out, we're, like Emily said, we're kind of just really playing, how does the floor plan look like? Where's the bar? We tried the bar out in several different locations. Are we doing booth seating? Are we doing banquette seating? Are we doing freestanding? What are we doing with the patios? So we're really doing all of that two-dimensionally, essentially. So we're like, I still hand sketch. So I hand sketch probably 40 plans that then gets like distilled down to like maybe, I don't know how many plans we did.
Maybe four.
Yeah. That I actually show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say there was probably like 8 we talked about, and
Yes.
then we narrowed it down to probably 4 once we really started to have a couple more phone calls. Of
Exactly.
what might work.
Yeah. So that phase essentially is your schematic phase. And it's really nailing down, okay, this floor plan is going to work for us. We're going to get the seat count we need for our pro forma. So like, you need obviously a certain number of people, butts and seats. So you really nail down a floor plan. And then with Sparrow, we're not only engaged on the interiors, but also the graphics and the branding.
Yes.
So
that was amazing. Literally, just find an interior designer that does both.
Yes.
Social design studio does all of that. Yes.
Yeah.
We do. And what was really amazing about Emily is that, yes, you had been thinking about it for years. And so she came to the table with a lot of concept imagery. And it was actually very cohesive, which we appreciate because we like to get direction from our clients. But sometimes it's like, oh, these are totally different design styles. Which one are you actually leaning towards? So you came to the table with some concept imagery. From there, we developed basically a mood board that gives us all the language of like, this is going to be the look and feel of Sparrow. And then Liz, our graphics lead, she developed all of your branding and a whole story, actually, which was really cool. So just about the Sparrow and how they gather and
kind of how she did such an amazing job, but she took my very random brain and words and turned it into the true, exactly what the Sparrow is supposed to be and embody. And she brought it to life, the phrases, the one-liners, the what's going to be on the menu, so people really understand what we're trying to bring to the, North Peoria.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That is, so it's not just like, all right, design the inside. Like you bring that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great value to bring to.
Exactly. I think, Eric, you and I had talked about this like on my last episode, where what I love about hospitality is that every concept is truly a story, right? And so we're bringing together, what is the story of your space? And, sometimes it's big and grand, but sometimes it's just as simple as starting with a sparrow and they gather, and it's beautiful. So so we developed this whole mood board, and then the direction we went back and forth, maybe a couple, a little bit of like, okay, this is the feel, right?
Yeah.
And we're good to go.
I would say that her team did a great job of I was almost nervous because they were like, okay, we got it. Like, we know what we're doing. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And then they did. Go to the next phase.
Check. Move on. So that's really, just for everybody listening, that's kind of your very initial phases, is working out the floor plan. That's huge. Working out where the kitchen is. And then what is that direction? Once we get sign off on both the floor plan and the mood board, then it's into design development. So that's phase 2. And that's kind of the bulk of the design work. So Emily said, yes, go, go, go. And from there, we really get to work. Okay. So we take that floor plan that's 2D and we start basically building it out 3D. So it really goes vertical, right? So we're looking, as Brian mentioned, our team is literally, and his team, we're working very, very closely. So a lot of people also ask, do you need a designer and an architect? And it's so funny how our roles blur, but like, look, like basically everything that you touch and feel and see, and that's, I want to say pretty, like the pretty lighting and the fabrics and the furniture and the tables, even like the millwork, that's a lot of our team, but it's also, we meet on it and it's driven by their team as well. And then
it's a great collaboration.
Yeah. And then you make sure we're functional.
And the things are going to stay up and not fall down.
Yeah.
Is that your company slogan? Yeah.
I love that.
So,
slogan.
but it's not common that the design and the architect would be as close as you guys are. Is that right? Or is it common for like those to kind of be connected?
I
as well
think
as you?
what works really well with Nicole and I is neither one of us have a strong ego in the design.
Yeah.
And so it really is, she comes to me with ideas and I tell her maybe what I don't like about certain things or what I really like about certain things. Mm-hmm. And we work together and get to a point where it's actually more elevated than where it began.
Yeah.
And so we can go back and forth like that. In the past, it's hard with other designers because they want to kind of bring their agenda, their idea to it, and it is what they want. So it's definitely a unique collaboration.
Yeah.
I would say so too. Yeah. And same with architects. Like, it's like, it has to be this way. And it's like, but does it?
I feel like putting my design build hat on for a second, that their collaboration is very rare.
Okay.
And when he says like dropping egos, it is somewhat of a stigma for architects in general to have that ego. They are brilliant people. So it's so refreshing when you have a team that really is trying to collaborate for the same goal and go, hey, we can both be right, or whatever it is sometimes that we are just going for this sparrow thing. And as a general contractor, having a team like that works together is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's like the sum, it's greater than the sum of the parts
Yeah.
type of thing, right? Like it's your team together elevates, but like it makes you each better at what you do.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to make a successful project for our client. So when all is said and done and Sparrow opens, we walk away. It's not ours anymore. So yes, I want to inform the design and I'll always push back. Like if I have this, I think great idea and Emily's like, meh, I'll be like, but did you think about, what about, I will push back on ideas that I am willing to fight for. But at the same time, I think when you work collaboratively, that's the benefit, is that you just get a better design. You get a more well-informed design. And like Brian's whole team, they always have great ideas. Oh, did you think about that? Or did you, we just make each other better. It's not one idea that's gonna do it. It's truly like just a full team.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how detailed we could get, but like think about the tables, the height of the tables, to where I'm like, I think we need more bar height tables or whatever it is. And Brian going, well, code says you can't really do that. We're like, oh, okay, well, never mind then. And I would have never known that had we not constantly collaborated with each other. Yeah. And then same with building the project on the GC side, that sometimes we're like, no, that's really hard to build. We should probably think of something else there.
Yeah. Well, and Emily, that's a great point. Like the client brings in that operational brain, right? So like, I want to make everything pretty and functional, but sometimes there's things I don't know. And they're like, oh, by the way, we have this special whatever, we need to carve a space out for that. Mm-hmm. So having your operations team involved is also super important, so that the design is not only pretty, but meets code,
functional,
doesn't fall down, and then works for the client, works for the operator at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Shout out again to our friends at Social Design Studio. Whether you're opening a restaurant, nightclub, spa, or hotel, Social Design Studio brings together branding and guest experience to create spaces that are not only beautiful, but functional and memorable. For more information, visit socialdesignstudio.co. Now let's get back into the episode.
So, all right, Brian is doing a good job of not letting things fall down and collapse. Right?
Yeah.
So we're back. We took a little bit of a break. I had to get my water refilled, even though it's the same as where it was before. So carry on.
Sure.
Nicole.
So just getting into kind of what does design look like? How do we even start? How do we even approach it? basically on our end, we take that mood board that Emily has signed off on, and our team, for probably weeks, really. I mean, that's another thing is I think we're approached a lot and we're like, we just signed a space. We want it designed in 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. Because as you've heard, right, just like getting a floor plan takes a good chunk of time. Getting a mood, getting a direction takes a good chunk of time. But then really the bulk of the work, the actual design of the restaurant, I mean, we are building out that model for a good couple weeks. And as we're building out the model, we're looking at everything, like literally every single corner and seeing how it's coming together. And we're like, okay, let's make this oak wood. Doesn't feel right. Let's make it this. You know, we're pulling together the finishes. Some things do fit, some things don't. But we basically kind of ghost the client for a while.
Stop returning calls.
But
and
we're
emails and stuff.
working. I every now and then I'll send an email like, I promise we're working. You know, like
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Because I like to say too, like once we actually like get that go ahead to go, we do start. But it doesn't, as Brian know, the creative process doesn't just like and fully designed in one day, right? Like I start pulling finishes and furniture. My team does too. And we're like, this feels good. This doesn't feel good. And then I have to like sleep on it and come back to those sketches and like, oh, I had this amazing thought overnight. Like, what if we did it this way? And then I'll run it, like our offices are upstairs and downstairs. So I'll run upstairs and like, what do you think about this? And so, yeah, so we basically build it out 3D. We're pulling every single finish, your floor, the tables, the millwork, the wood, the lighting, every pendant over. I mean, it really takes a long time to fully develop that whole thing.
No, sorry, go ahead.
And-
Do you use like a program?
We do.
Yeah. And then so you can add every little, you don't just have like you have to use your imagination. You can actually pull the specific pendant and place it in there.
So no,
Okay. All right.
my team builds
Yeah.
every single thing
Wow.
that we pull.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, every now and then they can pull something. So we use a program called SketchUp, which most people know. So it's a 3D modeling program. There are things like if they pull a chair, like let's say they pull this chair, they might find something similar, but then they modify it to be that exact chair that we're going to present to them.
Okay, yeah.
So that look, that 3D model, when we present to the team is as accurate as possible. Now, there's some things like a brick might come off funky in a 3D rendering, but that's why when we meet on the design, we were in your conference room.
Yep.
Which was nice. It was a big table. And so we have every single finish laid out because as these 3D images are on the screen, it's like, oh, that looks funky. It's like, no. Look here. This is real.
Right.
So it's super important to do that design presentation in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once that model is ready, we have the full presentation pulled together. We basically meet as a whole team and kind of,
Like Christmas morning. Everyone's like so excited off the presentation.
and it's a lot. It's a lot to walk through because we're literally showing you every single nook and cranny. We basically, how we present is we're basically like if you're walking through the space. So we usually start at the host stand. We walk through the dining. We walk through the bar, the bigger spaces, and the ancillary like patio, restrooms, and we kind of present it like this is our interpretation.
Right. The whole table was just like filled with every piece, texture, sample. So you really, as you're looking, can kind of look down. But I do want to say too, it is a lot. So when it's your first one, I think this is the first one that I have hired an interior designer. Now on the contracting side, I've seen it enough to where I kind of know, but I didn't realize how overwhelming it is. And I actually called her and apologized and said, I'm really sorry. Like, I will have some things to say, but in the moment, you're just like,
Yeah. And we know that. We do. So we've presented enough times. We know and we see that like, processing. It's a lot. And so we take notes because it just depends on the client. Like some clients who've done it before, like they'll be like, yes, no, whatever. And then there's clients, I'm like, we're going to email you this package. Please take a week and really digest it, show it to your team, and then you can give us additional comments.
I think it's better too when they have that time to digest it and let it sit and marinate. Because when they give automatic kind of quick reactions, it's, may not get the best response.
Exactly.
that's very true.
Yeah. And we've been living with the design for, like I said, like weeks. You know, we've literally have it all worked out and piecemealed. So in our minds, it's all there, but we know that like I am downloading you with a ton of information. And live with it
for sure. And also, it depends on the team you have there. And we've spoke about that too. And I don't know if you guys have a way you like to do it. We brought a pretty large team. I think maybe sometimes it'd be better to have a smaller team, because there is like everyone's looking at it from a different angle when you do have, you know, a bar operator, a restaurant operator, the chef, and then the design team and the development team and the whole everyone there.
Yeah. It just depends. So some clients, it'll literally just be the owner and us. I probably prefer that. But I do like it when the whole team is there and they can hear. Your team was actually really great, because I think any commentary that they did have was like, it was all very constructive, and it was very good, right? I think when it just goes down a rabbit hole of like not understanding, then it's just like, this has gone off the rails.
I feel like it goes back to that ego piece. Like you have to have the right people in the room, and making sure that everyone doesn't have any sort of ego when they walk in that room. That really, we are just here to collaborate and take it all in for this first meeting, and then we can bring our constructive
back. Right? Yeah. Like not just saying things to say things.
Right.
And I think it's about when you have certain people in the room, because when it gets into more of the design, having that bar operator really is helpful.
Oh yeah.
You know, or the chef during the kitchen design. So yeah, at the right moments, it's great to have those people in the room and really get their feedback so you can make sure it's going to work.
Is there any way do you prep the team before you're like, all right, we're going to come in, we're going to present this, like to kind of give them an idea of what is going to happen so then they can prep their team? Like, guys, chill out a little bit, right, on this first one, right? Let's not try to go down these rabbit holes. But is there any like sort of prep to that?
I think I say a little something at the beginning. Like, number one, my biggest disclaimer is like, don't get too caught up on the SketchUp model, because we can. I mean, they're pretty realistic. They're not 100% photorealistic. So I think in this day and age with AI and all of these things, it's like, but that doesn't look perfect. And it's like, when I first started, we were doing 2D hand sketches. Black and white on a piece of paper. Yeah. So this is a long way. So I do preface that, like, don't get too caught up in that. And also, just...
You said from the very beginning, something like, at the end of the day, you hired me, so I'm going to look to you.
Yes.
So that, I think, was a quick little easy way, without saying too much, to be like, I'm presenting to you, and whoever can come, but just make sure that there's not a bunch of opinions in that.
Sure. Yeah.
You did a good job of directing it that way.
Yeah. And there were some good comments, but that's very true. And I said that, like, I pulled you to the side to say that. But yes, that I do appreciate, but then at the end of the day, you're going to have to live with this space. So like, what do you want me, of those comments, what do you want me to listen to?
It was great the way she did it, for sure. And I think it gave me enough time to kind of prep my team that you're more than welcome to come, but this really is initial design phases. So just, take it all in, and then we'll discuss later.
Yeah. Got it. I like that.
Yeah. So we presented. It went well. It went good.
It went amazing.
It
really was. Like, I mean, if you look at the initial design to now, there's not very many differences.
There's not. But you know what's really nice too is, like, I will be the first one to say we don't get it right on the first. Like, I wouldn't say right. We didn't drastically change things, but the comments that we did receive, and we're always anticipating at least one round of revisions usually, because there's things that maybe once they see it 3-dimensionally, like the booths next to the bar.
Yeah.
Right. We had these like 3 kind of coved in booths, but the team, and I 100% agree, felt like it kind of closed off the space a little too much.
Right.
And that was very good constructive criticism. So we went back, we changed those booths, we opened up that corner. And again, that's just the power of like working as a team.
And teamwork, SketchUp, and really like ego again. Like the fact that you were like, oh yeah, like, I'm the one that asked exactly what you presented is what I asked for. And then I saw it was like, oh, that really just, the whole restaurant doesn't feel as open as what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah. So we opened up the ceiling on the side dining.
Yep,
We
that's
opened
all.
up that wall.
Yep.
And it felt so much
So
better.
much better. I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
great. Here we go.
And it's the same thing, like as we're working through design, I'll see something that's my own idea. My team will execute it. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that. That actually looks awful.
But sometimes it takes getting it out and seeing it.
Exactly.
Right? Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not.
Yeah. So that's why that first design presentation, getting that from the client of, yes, we delivered exactly what you wanted, but like, oh, this can be better. And we want it to be better. And that's the beauty of SketchUp. That's the beauty of of design, is that let's make all these changes now and not in the field.
Right.
When it gets expensive.
Well, that's what I was gonna put my GC hat back on for a second and say that as a contractor, making sure that they have time to review. I always obviously love bringing on a team, being able to say, hey, this is the team that you should be working with. But also from the contracting perspective, they're really good about it because they know they've done it enough to kind of know budget from the beginning. But a lot of times they don't. You know, a interior designer won't, and going, oh, that's going to be expensive. Like, if maybe we could change that detail or open up the ceiling or something that's going to, you know, stay within the budget of what the client's looking to achieve, and being able to make it to the finish line and get it open and do everything else they want to do in the restaurant.
And that's all a really good point. I think from our perspective too, on the design side, we always, and I tell this to the clients, this is our opportunity to go big in design, right? Like, let's show you the big ideas. And then you're like, that's crazy. That's going to be $100,000. Okay, then how do we do a version of that?
And we did do a couple of those things.
We do a couple of those things.
Which, by the way, she did a couple of things that I am splurging on. So I'm glad that she went that direction, because there were certain things I'm like, well, let's pull that back. But, oh, yeah, we need that wall.
Yeah.
That is going to change the whole space.
Yeah, exactly. And that's for anybody listening too, like, go big and then pull back. But like, you don't have, like, when we present, it's not like, this is exactly what it has to be and you cannot change a single thing. It's definitely a collaboration, you know?
Yeah. And there's also ways, once you get going, especially when you're working with a team that has done it multiple times, to make things more value engineered.
Yes.
In our mind, as a restaurateur, we might go, oh no, there's no way we could do that. And lo and behold, she has someone who builds furniture, or someone, there's things that we're not thinking of. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's important to have a smart design team that, if there is an expensive material, how do we use it, but not use it in a way that's going to be, everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's it. So then we took comments and then I think there was like maybe 1-2 rounds of revisions. And
I remember one that was like, the one that we took, changed the ceiling, and maybe the second round. But I think it was like changing the tables or the booths. We went booths to banquets, but
yeah.
Or banquets to booths.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the design phase. And then I think something to note too is we don't move forward until we have 100% sign off. So like, we didn't move forward from schematic to design until we had that floor plan pretty much nailed down, because if you start trying to pull the cart before the horse, it's just gonna be a mess. Yeah. So we take our time for a reason, but then you're set up so much better in the long run. So so then we got sign off on design and moved into the next phase, which I think we're gonna be discussing next time.
Episode number 2.
Episode number 2.
Brian, front and center. Yeah.
Technical. They're so smart. Oh my gosh, him and his whole team. Heidi will talk. So Heidi is one of the architects on Sparrow, and she'll just say something, and I'm like, she's so smart. I don't know.
You got a good team, Brian. Yeah.
Yep, we're very proud of our team,
Yeah.
and everyone in our office is a licensed architect or on their way to being a licensed architect, and so we wanted a team that no matter who you're working with, they're fully capable of taking the project through and really thinking through all the details and how everything comes together. So you're not left with these kind of unexpected moments of things that weren't quite finished or thought through.
Yeah.
And I will say that's actually rare. So I have worked with several architecture firms that the people actually doing the work are more like draftsmen, and they don't have their licenses. And so there's a huge difference.
And my business partner and I are always involved. We're overseeing the process, the project, the details, so that we can kind of, see any issues coming up and set those expectations so there aren't any of those surprises.
And going to the building side, it does make a world of a difference having leaders that are overseeing, even if, it's nice if everyone's registered for sure.
Yeah.
But if they're not or on their way, that you do have someone that's really overseeing it. We've worked with some pretty large firms, and they're great. I mean, there's great things about large firms and great things about boutique. The nice thing about boutique, especially when it comes to restaurants, is that ability that they're just so much more involved, and their communication styles is so much more tailored to the hospitality world.
And I will say that, like, we are a boutique firm. So when you hire us, you're hiring me. I am the principal designer, but I'm also the design director. So like everything comes from me. But I do have a team that helps me do everything. Yeah. But larger firms, you may hire them, but you're not quite sure which designer you're going to get. So, and we've been told several times we should grow and take on more work. And I'm like, I don't want to grow. And I mean, I want to grow in some sense, but like, we very thankfully have gotten to a place where we take on the clients we want to take on and the projects that excite us. And I'm perfectly fine with, I love that. So like, I love being hands-on and right there when Emily has a question, or any of my clients. Like, you can ask any of them. Like, you text me, I text you back. Please not like super late at night, but
you did a great job with that too, setting the expectation. I am like restaurants and construction. So there's really no hours where I'm not thinking about something work. So I needed those expectations of like, hey, please don't text me, late at night. And I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. But I might be at the restaurant and an idea comes to my head.
Sure.
So really respecting boundaries is important.
Communication, right?
Yes.
That's what it all comes down to, is communication. And it seems like with this team that you guys have, I mean, separating the sparrow from it, of just doing general contracting, design, and architecture, it's all about the communication, right? It's just talking and being open and not having the egos that you can share how you feel. And someone's not going to be, well, like, you don't like the way I'm doing it, like, that's not it, so that's crucial for sure.
Yeah.
There has never been one moment with either one of these firms that they have done that, like, ever. And I think that's so rare in both the hospitality world and the contracting world.
Yeah. Killer team, guys. Nice work.
Thank you.
Nice work. Well, I don't want to get too ahead, but since we're on the design phase of it in this first episode, what is it like the rest of right? Because you have this, you get the check mark, everything's good, thumbs up, cool, this is what the design is, and then everything's easy from there, right? What are some of the challenges of design between the thumbs up, this is what we're rolling with, to opening day?
Not to get too far ahead, but we might do things during design that might be magical.
Yeah.
And we have no idea how we're going to do it. But at least, exactly, that's floating in air. That can happen. But the next couple phases are really about how to bring it to life. And so we might go big in design, and then we have to figure out how to actually make it happen. Yes. But I mean, for me, hospitality, that's the true magic of it, is that you're constantly doing things that have never been done before. And that's why I love hospitality and restaurants and what we do, because you don't want to look like the restaurant down the street. And I don't want you to look like the restaurant down the street. So we do have some clients where like we have several locations for them, but we're constantly even tweaking those of like making them feel special. But when we're this is my favorite is developing a new concept, because it's wholly like, we are true creators. What is this going to be? Like something from nothing. And so, Eric, to your question, the whole making it real is difficult.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into what is the real. We got to bring in the AV consultant. We got to bring in, like, how do the speakers fit into all this? How does the electrical all going to work? So it's, how do we take that initial design and make it work with integrating all these other things into it that don't take away from the design.
Yeah.
So
I like it. And with you being boutique, I remember when I came in to drop magazines off one time that you were like, "Oh, don't worry, this is a beautiful office. You got a bunch of boxes. You're like, these are stools that this, like, so."
Yeah.
But I love that, right? that means that you're putting your heart and soul into this, and it's, you're not just like, "Oh, I'm the face of this," and like, no, you're carrying boxes of stools and
in it all day.
Yeah.
And I think, is there a point maybe towards the end or in this meeting talking about your procurement and bringing in the furniture piece? Because firms do that. I think the way that you have structured your company is, again, superior. Because she is trying to make it easier and also wearing a lot of the stress of bringing the project to life at the end. And I know when we're sitting in Sparrow and it's all done and we're like, oh my God, we're here. We can talk more about that too.
Yeah.
But it's not just, what goes on the walls and what texture goes here.
Yeah.
It's making sure that every nut and bolt also fits inside of the chair and it's all set up on the day of the grand opening.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So yes, part of our services is procurement, which is just a fancy word for shopping. Yeah. So, and we love to do that part. So basically, when you look at a restaurant, every single table, chair, light fixture, light bulb, even art, fabric on that chair has to be purchased. And so we give you everything you need to purchase it yourself, but we prefer to purchase. And yes, we do it. Basically, the way we structure it is that we give you our cost, which, because we do such volume, we are wholesale, which is well below retail. So sometimes 60% below retail. And then we have a procurement fee, which marks it up. But that procurement fee really is our time to do the purchasing. And it takes so much time. So like our team does that, but they're writing the purchase orders. They're making sure that the factories get every single detail. This nail head needs to be gold, and this trim needs to be this color. And so it's every single detail on those pieces. And then we are tracking it from the factory to the locations. Or if you're a third-party warehouse, if we're shipping to a third-party warehouse, then we're scheduling that to then get installed at the restaurant. So that piece is massive.
And you also have the capacity, the ability to install and oversee that piece too.
We do. And so we're on site with you and making sure everything is exactly placed and perfect, and it never goes perfect ever, ever. So it's funny because people like look at our procurement fee and they're like, and we're like, no, that is well deserved. I promise you. And it's always, there's something damaged. There's something scratched. There's something, whatever. That fixture shouldn't be that height. It should now be this. So yeah, it's a lot that goes into it.
And I know when I talk to the contractors that put this together, because we're the general contractor, but there's a lot of trades that are putting the metal artwork together.
Yeah.
Hiring them to be there to go, oh, okay, that brass really doesn't match that ahead of time, instead of the week before you're trying to open and pull things together, I think is something that is well worth it as someone who's done it.
Sure. Well, this was incredible.
This is fun. Guys. I hope my big takeaway is I really hope that people understand that, that was not a 10-minute conversation.
No.
So, these projects obviously you can tell we put our heart and soul into them. And I'm so grateful, to our clients, because we love our work and we love doing this. And so I hope people get a good insight into what it takes.
Yeah. I think the 3-part series was so important. And if you're like, okay, I think I got it all, you didn't.
I know.
I promise.
It's just starting.
Yeah. Just beginning, yeah. But that's great, though, right? That means with episode 2 and 3 of this, we're just going to build upon kind of what we've covered so far.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to enjoy some food and drinks. Episode 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the estimated opening time for Sparrow?
Okay, so here's the thing that most restaurateurs will tell you is we don't like to really give anything too specific because things change with developers, things change in construction. We are shooting for spring of 2025. We still have not officially been handed the keys.
Okay.
We are going in for our second round with the city. The city can take as long as they want. So hopefully spring 2025, but if anyone in Peoria is listening to this, please don't hold me to that. Just come support when it is there.
But you can enjoy some of your other locations, though, like your other restaurants. Like Squid Ink.
Squid Ink is, just a couple miles down the road. The sushi bar, we've been there 13 years. I always say it feels like home there, but I've also been going there for 13 years, long before I was married to Parker. So it really is like a second home for me.
Yeah.
And then Urban Agave is a newer concept, definitely more like a local spot. That one's located at 67th and Beardsley, right off the freeway. We've only actually owned that one for 2 years, and it's been around for quite a while. And then Highball downtown. Highball cocktail bar. Oh, have you been?
Actually, they're in the Mitch and Libby are in this issue talking about their places that they like to go.
Yes, and they're the best.
They are.
I have the best teams.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely all about the team for me.
Mitch just won the
Tales of the Cocktail.
Yeah.
Well, or not Tales of the Cocktail.
Ultimate Fighting. What is Killer Well Sex Club guys?
And of course now I'm on the spot, so I don't remember the name of the award, but it was huge.
It's like the Ultimate Bartender Championship or something like that.
Ultimate Bartender Championship. It's like huge. We're so excited for him, and we got to see him and what he did with his little prize money that was so well deserved. The man is brilliant. So Highball is definitely somewhere if you haven't been. They are like, I call them, they like to say they're bartenders. They are chemists.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, the hospitality too. Like there's the service that you get there, like just all around. It's just a great experience, and it's
To be downtown is a difficult place, and they embody what hospitality means. It goes back to that ego piece and just making sure that everyone feels welcome as soon as they walk in the door.
I love it. Well, nice job, guys. Episode 1 in the books.
Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah. So stay tuned for the episode 2 and 3. So
thanks
you guys
so much
again.
for being an incredible host. That was so great.
Yeah, so good.
You did great.
Did I do good?
Yes, you did amazing.
Changing my career.
Awesome. Nice work, guys.
Today's episode is sponsored by Social Design Studio. Based in Scottsdale, they specialize in creating stunning, boutique hospitality spaces that stand out. Whether it's a restaurant, nightclub, spa, or hotel, Social Design Studio brings together interior design, branding, and guest experience to create spaces that are not only beautiful, but functional and memorable. From Oliver's to Bourbon and Bones to Etta and Scottsdale, they've left their mark all across the valley. For more information, visit socialdesignstudio.co.